one last time just to get an angle on this a bit better. I love showing off my local Jersey granite.
All right, local Jersey granite looks awesome. Hi, I am Alice Keeler. I am a math teacher in Fresno, California, and I have today with me my guest, Adam Grocott, who is in Jersey, but not New Jersey. He's in Old Jersey. He's in the UK with a lovely accent, so it'll make it extra fun for us today. So Adam, if you want to share a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name's Adam Grocott. As Alice has said, I'm living on Jersey. I'm not from Jersey. I'm from a beautiful place in England called Staffordshire, and was dragged over here kicking and screaming, as you can imagine. Not really. It's a brilliant place to work. The reason that I love being a part of these webinars with Alice is because the school and the country that I work in has literally gone teams crazy recently. We've worked very closely with our education department and have successfully enabled, with their support, the deployment of teams now for schools. So whilst we've been prepared for it, we're now at the stage where hopefully a lot of you educators are as well, and we are getting ready to deploy teams out to our teachers so as they can utilize it for its full capacity with their students. So that's why I'm here, and hopefully I can share with you some of the tips that you're going through on your journey as well, as we say in this introductory stage.
Yeah, well, I'm really excited. I've been using Teams, and I just feel like whatever I'm doing, I'm like, I want to do this in a team. Even if I just need to have one document to collaborate on, I find that I really enjoy having the whole team's experience around that one document. I'm like, hey, why don't we just make a team for this? And it's just designed for that interaction and collaboration at a level that I've never experienced before, and I just really enjoy. So I'm really excited to talk with Adam today about how you use Teams for teaching. I use it a lot to collaborate with teachers and for professional development reasons, but using it with students is a whole different lens and perspective. And Adam has been using it recently, his you know, what do you say, district?
Yeah, I'll say district because I know that you know what I mean.
Yeah, so they've just recently gone team. So I've asked Adam to join because he's got a lot of great experience. Got my tea now, thanks, honey. He's got a lot of great experience of recently what happens when a lot of teachers are newly introduced to Teams, especially in a remote learning environment, is their first time using Teams. And so if anyone has any questions and things, he's going to be really great to ask those up. So I'm going to go ahead and start the screen share on the PowerPoint. And I'm going to browse. Oops. Oh no, I picked the wrong one. So I'm getting used to how I can share PowerPoints in a Teams meeting, but I love it because it just suggests, like, here's some of your PowerPoints. Do you want to use one of these? I'm like, I do. Uh-oh. 3. Okay. All right, so we have part 2, getting started with Microsoft Teams. My Twitter handle is @AliceKeeler, and we have @AD Grocott, and I encourage you to follow him on Twitter. He's really great for asking questions, and if you want to tweet, which I know Sarah will, shout out to Sarah, we would appreciate you giving us a tag in those. And so last week, we talked about a lot of things, but you know, Teams has so many great things that you can do with it. To try and squeeze it in an hour is tricky. So we just decided, let's just do it again. So on the fly, we just added this extra webinar to continue the conversation from last week. But if anybody has any questions from the things that we covered last week or some other questions, we'd love for you to either put them into the chat or go ahead and turn off your microphone and share with us what your questions are.
Untitled Chapter disabled.
Hi Alice, this is Preeti.
Hey.
From part 1, I see here you've written that it provides a template in an assignment. Can you please tell me more about this picture? How do we share a template in the assignment, please?
Yeah, definitely. I'd be happy to share that. Now, one of the things you could do is go to alicekeeler.com/Microsoft, and I have all of the webinars from the past weeks, and this one will be there as well. So there's a button there for the playlist. So if you want to go back and look at the week 1 webinar where I get into that, you know, with the screen share and everything, so go ahead and check it out there. But basically what happens is when you open up an assignment, you can add resources. So if I have a Word document or a PowerPoint that is some sort of a graphic organizer or a spreadsheet, or excuse me, a worksheet. Yeah, it would be great if it was a spreadsheet. You've got some sort of a template, right, that you would distribute 1 per student. So by default, when you add resources to a Teams assignment, and this is relatively new, actually, no, it's new. When you add a resource, it defaults to being view only, so that allows you to add a directions document or just some resources that aren't copied. So if you'd like to make a copy of this template, you're going to click on the 3 dots on the attachment stripe and change it from students cannot edit to making a copy for each student. So, okay, any other questions before we get rolling? All right, well, let's go ahead and start. And again, if you're able to chat, we welcome you to put your questions over there. And then you are also able to unmute your microphone. And
Alice,
yeah,
Actually, our chat box is disabled. It's not
I was going to say
there.
the same thing.
So,
Yeah.
okay,
yeah.
so if you are now, I think pretty that you are a member of my team, so you should be able to chat. I noticed some others are, but I think just the way that you joined in, because you didn't go to Teams and find my webinars team and join it from the team, I think that's why you cannot chat. So next week, if you want to try joining that way, that will allow you to chat. But please feel free to just go ahead and turn on your microphone. Do you have a hand raise option or no? Is that disabled also?
No, hand raise is there for me, so hopefully that's then the same for others.
Is anybody not, so when you hover over the screen and the toolbar shows up, there's a hand raise option. It's pretty new. Yeah, you do have to switch tenants. So Sarah noted that when she wanted to join this team, it defaults obviously to her school tenant or domain. And so you do have to switch the tenants to join this particular team, depending on the account. So one thing that I do, not saying that you need to do this, but I like to use the Edge Chromium browser. And I'm going to be honest, I installed it kicking and screaming because I really love Chrome. I got all my Chrome extensions and I have great workflows that I love. I'm like, I don't need another browser. I'm good. And then I installed it and I'm like, wait a minute, this is Chrome. It is Chrome. It works. It is. It's Chromium. They based it off of Chrome. So everything you understand about Chrome, it does that. And so it's a beautiful experience that I feel comfortable with. The interface is actually nicer and it has immersive reader built in. So it just kicks it up 10,000 notches with that one. So it has a lot of nice features. So what I then do is I click on my picture in the upper right of Microsoft Edge and I add a login or a profile. I had a profile. And so then I have a profile for each of the tenants. So that way it's easy for me to just go to teams.microsoft.com and join whichever team that you need to do. Now, if you're working at a school, the likelihood that you need to get outside of your team tenant, your school district teams is pretty low. But if someone invites you to something outside of your district, that's where you have to really understand the tenant switching.
Alice, do you find yourself as well then switching between different tabs for your different profiles as well on the new Edge Chrome browser?
I have to, well, when I switch profiles, it actually makes it as different windows. Yeah. I do that a lot, especially since I have a login for a student for Teams and I have my teacher login. I just created a profile one for each so that it makes it easy for me to do demonstrations. Most people don't have that.
Yeah, we have exactly the same setup then, particularly for in school, and we have then a fake student account which we add to all of our teams, just so as when we're submitting out and sending out assignments like what we're going to get into now, you can straight away see it from teacher and student view yourself. I know that that feature is already built into Microsoft Teams, but it's just good to know that you've already logged in, and that's exactly how the students are going to be experiencing it too.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And if your IT person is willing to make a fake student and load into everybody's teams, that is one of the best things I think you could do. Then yeah, just do another Edge profile for that student. And then you can just literally quick and easy, like, okay, I put this is what it looks like from a student, and you can help direct your students a little easier. So that's an awesome tip. Thank you for that. All right, so kind of picking up where we left off. Last week I showed you how when you create a new team, you go to the 3 dots in the channel list and next to the class title, and you click on that and choose that you can just add members. And so you just start typing the student's name. They're already logged into the school. I mean, they have accounts through the school. So once you start putting their name in, they pop up, you select them, and they're straight away right in the team. And it's very likely that your school actually populated your team with your roster for you. So you wouldn't even have to do any of these methods at all if your school did that. But another way that you can invite students into your team is to give them a join code. And you might want to do something like that if you want to create a team, say you are the basketball coach and you're wanting to do tryouts. And Teams is a great place to organize all of the documents and communication around being on the basketball team. So then you can share, like on posters, here's the join code, and students who are interested in joining the basketball team can join with a code, because you don't know who those people are, so you can't invite them manually. So to do that, when you're in the team, you'll notice it has those 3 dots right next to the class title or the team title, and you're going to go to Manage Team. From Manage Team, I actually had, just because I figured this out today, I'm always zoomed in. So I'm always like, these buttons are missing. They're not missing. If I do Control-0 and reset my zoom, that solves a lot of problems. So I'd like to share that tip with all of you. If you're thinking like, my buttons are missing, this looks funny, do Control-0, reset your zoom. But I find it actually really nice to Control++++++, and zoom in, because I'm 43 and my glasses need upgrading. And so it's just nice to have things be bigger. And that means then things kind of collapse. You'll notice in my little small screenshot that I have up there is that my settings tab, while is normally just completely visible, is under a collapsible menu. So you're going to go to settings, and then what you would see is it gives you the option to generate a code. So you just click generate, it shows the code, and then my rules are it shouldn't be ugly. Like no one should mistake it like a 1 or an L or an O. So if it's any of those weird characters, if I think that M and N are really close to each other and they might get them backwards, if there's any reason I think someone might accidentally type it in wrong, I click reset, I'm gonna reset it, and then it has a copy option. So you can just copy that code and paste it into your Word document to make your flyers or different places that you would share it. It also has a display button. So if you're doing it in class, you have students coming in, you can just display the code and they can go to Teams and join with the code. So it's quick and easy to get students into your team.
Alice, have you yet generated a code and turned it into a QR code for people to scan?
Oh, look how fancy you are. No, that's a good idea. Can you do that?
I haven't either, but that's why I'm asking.
Well, I think the answer is no, because the code is not a link.
Right.
But that's
I feel like that's my assignment for this week.
Well, I know who we can suggest this to, that we'd like a QR option in addition to the code option. So I know the PM for Teams assignments, so I will let him know. All right, so of course, what are you going to do if you're teaching a class? What I love about Teams is the interactivity. I love the posts on the general channel where we have conversations, we share ideas, we answer questions, and all that's wonderful. But let's get down to it. We need to locate student work. They've done it. Now what? So once you click on assignments on the left-hand side, so you always have that toolbar on the left side, you're going to see these assignment stripes for assignments that students have not finished or completed. And Adam, do you have any tips or anything about how you use this assignments page?
When I'm creating assignments, I know that we went over this last week, but obviously the naming conventions are integral. When I'm teaching my maths modules for my students, I will try as often as possible to utilize the language that's specific to the module that they're using and that they're doing. So therefore then, so for example, if I've got a foundation course student, then it will be foundation unit FO1. And all of my assignments then, I use that FO1 and then I put the heading in out what the name is.
So
But naming conventions are real top tools for specific learning tasks.
Yeah,
so
no, I agree with that. definitely have a system. So I use a hashtag and a 3-digit number, but I like your F01. Do you do F02?
Yeah.
Is it by section that you're doing that, or just numbering them? Because I recommend the numbering.
Yeah, F01 is for the first unit. As I say, that unit will then have a unit heading to go with it, but obviously then within that there's then certain components of it. So everything that they know that's within F01 is about the unit for number, place value, rounding and bounds, etc. You know what I mean? So so everything then is just, they then see the code F01 and they know which unit it's about. Then any further assignments when we get into F02, F03, obviously that will then mean that they've moved on a unit. So naming conventions and giving them some thought as well, because you want to be using the language for your students. If you're going to want them to access the assigned piece of work, you're going to want them to be able to relate to it instantly from the heading. So give your assignments some real thought. Try not to make them too waffly, and try and make them focus specific to the learning that they're doing.
Yeah, those are great tips. Thank you for that. So what you would do, and you look at this screen, my next slide has these. You'll see that I clicked on assignments on the left. If you're like, oh, this isn't the right class, or you're done with this one, you need to go to second period, third period, you can just click right up at the top and switch teams pretty quickly. And then you can see a count of who's submitted and how many more that you need to do. And all you have to do is then click right on that stripe, and that is going to show you information about this assignment. So you can see at the top it says edit the assignment. So if you need to make some updates, your directions are not clear, any of these, change the points. Oh, I forgot to put points on it, and click on edit assignment at the top. Student view is not student view. Student view is really just what the directions look like. We're not viewing it from a student's perspective fully. And of course you can export to Excel, which is obviously awesome. And below the assignment title, you'll see that there are 2 tabs. It's to grade and graded. And the graded one is when you are done looking at something. So that's a really nice feature, is it actually gets it out of your way. So the list gets smaller as you get through giving students feedback, which is something I really appreciate. I feel like I'm making progress. When I'm on the to grade tab, it has the status column. Now you notice that there's a very tiny triangle next to the word status. And if you click on that, you can sort it. So you'll notice I have it sorted where students have not turned in. Let me rephrase that. It's have not looked at it. So if a student has opened the assignment, it at least shows you that they've opened it. This is probably one of my favorite things about Teams, is it just even lets me know if students are engaging in the assignment at all.
That's you know what, Alice, that's probably been one of my go-to things at the moment. I don't want my students to feel like Big Brother's watching, but ultimately in a time of remote learning, I do want to know who's engaged, you know what I mean? And that's probably one of the quickest and easiest ways of me keeping tabs and just keeping mental notes then on which ones of my students are involved.
Well, I am definitely not into just relying on compliance. I like to think about how to design a really good lesson that engages students. But let's also remember, we're talking about human beings, and adults or kids, but especially kids, have some immature practices that they all need a little encouragement and help finding things. So when I see that they've not turned it in, which means they haven't looked at it, that's a great excuse for me to engage with that student. And so I can go over to the chat on the left-hand side. There's a chat icon, and I can chat directly with that student and that student only. So it's not in the general posts tab where everyone can see my comment. I can actually comment just to this student and be like, hey, I noticed you haven't looked at this assignment. And this is where I think naming conventions really comes in handy, because you'll notice I number my assignment. So I have hashtag 001. I say, you know, I didn't see you in number 1, and I don't have to put the whole assignment title. I can just put that little code that I put at the very beginning. It shortens my conversations, and it makes it quick for us all to be on the same page. When you put quiz, 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 you're like, hey, you didn't do the quiz this week. Well, which quiz are you talking about? So just by numbering it, that does solve that problem, and it allows everyone to be on the same page quickly. So when you click on, excuse me, I'll back up for a second. If I click on that where it says viewed, I think this is one of the most amazing features about Teams, is that when I click on viewed, which means they have not turned it in, it's going to open their work. I can see their work. It's incomplete. Now you can see this example. I've actually added a slide of my own as the teacher saying, hey, good job getting started. And we're literally able to collaborate and be in this PowerPoint at the same time. They haven't submitted it. You can see here under student work, their history, it says not turned in. I can type feedback in that spot, no problem, and able to interact with students before they submit it. So it's just really a rethink of how we even approach assignments and how we do feedback. You don't have to do feedback. What I call autopsy feedback is after they turn it in. We can give them feedback that's more formative. One of the things I love about Teams, you'll notice these arrows that are on where it says AK Student 1. That's the student who I'm looking at right now. And if I click the drop down arrow, it would give me the list of all of my students so I can jump quickly to any student in my roster or press the right arrow to go to the next student, even though they haven't done the assignment, which I think is lovely. Do you ever get in there and look at student work before they've turned it in?
Yeah, and you know what? One of the best things about this and thinking about our sort of digital pedagogy without going too much into it, I always think back to those teachers. I don't know if it's a thing in America, but they walk in on a Friday with their bags for life that are filled with exercise books because they want to go home and have a look at the students' work.
Yeah.
And off I go, just taking my Surface Pro because I know that I've got all the student work there and I can flick through it far quicker than spreading them all out on a Sunday afternoon across my dining room table. It's just, again, because if you offer that to your staff and to your colleagues and anyone that's teaching and that's online that is a teacher that's thinking about that, you just think of that as a time saver in itself. That is gold.
My first keynote that I ever gave is I had an animation of a box a cardboard box, dragging across the presentation slides, and then dragging back, and then dragging back. Because I don't know about you, but this is what I would do. Like, I'm totally going to grade all these student notebooks. I'm going to give them all feedback, and I would lug this entire, and I'm a high school teacher, so I've got 100 kids, right? More. And I'm lugging all these notebooks home or all these papers home, and then life happens. I mean, I have kids, and I just didn't get to it like I thought I would. And I lugged the darn thing right back to school, and I'm having this back and forth dance of just carrying papers around. So my animation would then burn up the box. It just set on fire. So once we start using tools like Microsoft Teams and Office, where students are able to do their work digitally, then I'm no longer needing to have a chiropractor. So appreciate you bringing up that feature. That is awesome. So coming back to the screen, what I'm able to see is when a student has turned in that it does look differently. So you remember before it says that they viewed it, which is amazing because the ones that says not turned in really just means don't bother clicking here, you will find nothing. So now I can see the ones who actually turned it in. These are the ones that are ready for my summative feedback on it. So I can just click right on that stripe and open up the assignment. And if there's a PowerPoint in this particular example, whatever, if they have a document attached, it instantly opens it. So I have one last click that I don't have to click on the attachment. No, it just opens and I can see their work, but it doesn't just open the attachment. It actually opens up, in this case, in PowerPoint online, which is amazing. And here's another lesson that I learned today. So I was like, I can't find Slides Designer, which everyone knows is my favorite feature of Office. Well, I was zoomed in. So Control-0 fixed that, as you can now see, definitely Slides Designer is there. And the reason I mention that is because this has edit capabilities, and I like to give my feedback. You'll see in the sidebar on the right-hand side, it has this feedback box that I can type overall feedback. That's what they're going to see in Teams, and that's really awesome. But in PowerPoint, I can add my own slides. So as a teacher, I add teacher slides. I showed this last week. And then I like to use the Slides Designer, so I pick a design that's really different from anything else that the students have, so they can see right away, oh, this is teacher feedback. And then because it's on a slide, I get all of this room. So it's not, I absolutely insert comments on the side. Text box, you know, where you just put Control, you right click and do new comment and inserts a comment on the side. You can do Control-Alt-M in a Word document. It's not a feature in PowerPoint yet. So, but when I get my own teacher slide, I can give such more dynamic feedback. It's multimedia. I can insert video. I can insert photos. I could write on paper and take a picture of it. I can use OneNote and insert a picture of the writing from OneNote on there. I can have all kinds of ways that I can give them feedback in a multimedia way. So the feedback box on the right is awesome, but it doesn't even allow for rich text. So I can really get really detailed, give them extra information. What do I want them to add or do things to their work? So I highly encourage you to consider, what can you not do in a PowerPoint? If students can write it on a Word document, they could write it on a PowerPoint. But the advantage to doing a PowerPoint is the advantage of where I can add my own feedback slides, like my own space to do feedback in and collaborate with students, which I think is pretty amazing. So this panel on the right-hand side, I really appreciate how cleanly it's like I go to the student up at the top. The next is the attachments. If they have more than one, I can click on it to view it over where it's editable. On that left-hand side, I can give them some overall feedback. I give them their points, and then it says return. And it is essential that you return all work in Microsoft Teams. Returning is how they get their score. So if you left them a score, returning gives them their score, and it moves it tabs. So remember we had that to grade tab. Well, I've already graded it. It's just like, let's move this aside. So without any extra effort, you don't have to manually mark it as graded. It will do it for you and put this over in this other tab, which is quite lovely. So return, 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 but you're returning when you're done. If you're giving formative feedback, you're jumping in, looking at their work, don't return yet. Wait till they've turned it in and you return it back. You're returning their score. All right, so you'll notice here that I have returned. I've put in a score there. I've given them some feedback. If you look on the left-hand side, slide 3 is where I've added teacher feedback score, teacher feedback slide, and the return is grayed out because I have returned that. And when I go back to the assignment, so I hit close, I go back into the assessment screen of the assignment. I can see I now have 2 of them that are graded. Student 1 is no longer in my list, so just, woo, my list is shorter, and that feels good. I just get giggled about it. I'm like, feels like a progress bar. So
I think that's just,
yeah, go ahead.
I think that's huge as well, because we know that despite the best efforts with providing formative feedback for students and making sure that they're target orientated and small steps and everything, I know that so many of my students are just keen to know what grade they got. So when you finally return that one, that then gives them that notification. It'll pop up in their sort of me space, and then they're like, boom, right, I finally got my grade. You know what I mean? And that's huge. And you have to stay on top of returning your feedback to your students, because they want to know that you're involved with their work as much as they are.
The webinar that I did yesterday was on student engagement. And I think one thing that's key for engagement is realizing that the teacher is engaging with you. Yeah. When you feel like they submit work and they just get a score without any feedback, they don't even know that you left them feedback. I have 5 kids. Once in a while, I'll hear them like, my teacher, I don't even know what they're doing. You know, and of course they're doing a lot, but it's hard when you're in a paper-based system to really notify when they're getting feedback. And so what is really nice about Teams is it has this activity bell. So you'll notice here, this is student view. So in student view, I have returned the assignment to the student. They're going to get a notification icon. Now I've clicked on it so you don't see it, but on that activity bell, there was a red dot. And it says this assignment is returned. And when I click on that in the feed of the activity, and here's what's brilliant, across classes. So they don't have to go find their feedback and their scores by clicking into each one of their classes individually. If you're at a middle or high school, they can actually just go straight to the activity bell. All of their classes will feed into this, and they can see where the assignment's been returned and they have feedback. And when they click on that, it pops right open. They don't have an extra click. It opens up right that assignment, where they can then see that you've left feedback and a score. Adam, how do you find students react to this?
Positively. And now that, as I say, like what I said at the start of this webinar, we're now in our infancy still. So had some great feedback from one parent today to say that they were really pleased, that almost like that we'd completed the full loop. that we'd successfully set an assignment, they'd taken the time to complete it, I'd provided some feedback, they'd finally submitted it, and then boom, there you go, and they've got the grade. And because I, like many teachers around the world, are just starting to experience this in the first instance, it's very much worth sticking with. Maybe some of your students will need some training on it because it's a new format and it's a new environment for them, but certainly educating them and getting their parents on board as well is a huge step forward. And ultimately that they're loving. A lot of my students now, unfortunately, are asking, well, how many other subjects am I going to be getting a Teams channel? We were very much OneNote driven, which I won't go into because I haven't got another hour. But certainly getting them more on board now with Teams. The students are really sort of buzzing, and they're starting to get a real sense of hype because of how much you can put into it. You know, there's so many tabs that you can throw into a Teams channel as well. We're going to come to that later, aren't we?
Into the tabs in a moment, but technology allows you to rethink how you've always done it. I want you to think about a lot of the things that were done to us. Like, my teachers didn't accept late work. Why? They wouldn't let me redo things. Why? Because that's good for learning. Those things are clearly not good for learning. As Joe Bowler says, this is Thomas Guskey, a researcher from Kentucky. There is no average time to learn something. Joe Bowler says being fast is not the same as being smart. And as we know, like, oh, did you fall off your bike? Well, you're not a bike person is ridiculous. Get back on the bike. Grit is good for learning. Quit and give up is not. So I don't allow my students to get a low score. Why? Before they're like, here's your low score. Good luck on the next assignment. Because grading and reteaching and managing all of that paper is just really a burden on one person, especially as a high school teacher. I have 150 students. I just physically can't let them retake or redo something indefinitely. But when I start using technology, one of the things that I do is I use digital quizzes. You can use Microsoft Forms for quizzing, which is built right into Teams, which we're not covering that today just because of a lack of time. But when you create an assignment, you can create a quiz, but that's actually a Microsoft form. Or you can go to quizzes, quizizz.com, and that also works with Microsoft Teams, and they can get that instant grading. And in quizzes, it has an option that says take it again. So that's what I require a lot of my students to do, is I can go to quizzes, I can assign it to Microsoft Teams, and when they take it, if they didn't get a good enough score, not sucks to be you. I assigned it so you can show me that you learned this. So show me that you learned this. And when I'm not doing like a DOK1 quizzes or a Microsoft form, the student can turn in again. So I don't know if you noticed the feedback that I left the student. I'm covering it up with my big giant circle, but it says you need to add at least 5 more slides. This is really incomplete. So I'm asking them to do more work. And so if you read the research from John Hattie, in order for feedback to really be effective, it should be actionable. If I leave them feedback, they oftentimes hyper-focus on the score and they don't really internalize the feedback. And how do I know they learned from the feedback if they don't do something with the feedback? And so I don't want to waste my time. I gave them feedback to help push them and get them better. So I want to see that they're better. So what Teams allows students to do is turn it in again. So if they take your feedback and they update their work, they can resubmit it, turn it in again. And what that's going to look like is I'm going to come back to that assessment screen for the assignment. And you'll see student 1 is back on my to get to grade list. And it says turned in. But I already returned it to them. So it took it off of the grading tab because they turned it in again. You'll see that it has the score there of a 7. But when I click on that student and on the when I click on the feedback icon, if I click on the student, open up the whole assignment. If I click on that feedback icon, I can actually see the feedback that I left previously. I can edit that feedback and update the score. So you can see that I did that. It turned it purple. It's trying to remind me, don't forget to return this. So once they resubmit, I'm returning their score. They don't get the score until you return it. So do keep that in mind. Adam, do you ever have students turn in again?
Yeah, we've started to, particularly, and as I say, again, I'm probably on the same stage of the journey as a lot of other teachers that are new to Teams. They'll submit it in the first instance without realizing that that's what they've done. So absolutely, you've got to give them another go at it. That is not end game. That is not you know, you've submitted it now, so that's it. That's then an opportunity to go, hang on a minute, you've clicked submit, you've clicked hand in. Are you sure? Let's go over this again. Let's just reopen that loop again, and let's see if we can have another go at it.
Yeah, I know.
Because as I say, for a lot of my students at the stage that we're at, we're still educating them about how to use Teams and how their assignments look like. It's no longer a workbook that they take home. It's on a very, very different platform. So we have to allow that opportunity for resubmissions and stuff like that. So yeah, we're definitely experiencing that, because as I say, we're getting plenty of people that are very keen to say, oh, I've done it now. And you go, yeah, have you really? Let's have another thing.
Yeah, I experience that a lot. Students will just turn in, they haven't done any work. So I'll leave them a feedback note that says, you actually have just turned this in. I do actually look at your work. I think they're just testing me. Maybe I need you to turn it back in, click the turn back in, and actually do the work. All right, so does anyone have any questions so far? We have about 20 minutes left, and Adam and I are going to show you how to do rubrics. But before we get into that, anyone you can put it in the chat or go ahead and turn on your microphone. No? All right, well then I'm going to go ahead and keep going. So we're going to take a look at rubrics, and I thought the best way to do this is, rather than doing it through the screenshots, I'm going to demonstrate what it looks like to create an assignment that has a rubric. So I'm going to stop presenting, and I'm going to share my screen. Let's see if I share the right one. That's the trick when you have so many accounts, right? Might be this one. Let's try it. This one will work. All right, so I am in my Teams, my Microsoft Teams. I'm clicking on Teams on the left-hand side. Can you see this? This is the wrong one.
Not yet.
Which one am I sharing? All right. This is, I know that I'm going to do screen sharing. Don't have other windows open. That is my fault. So lesson to myself. Let's see. I chose this. Screen share. You know what? I'm just going to share the whole everything. There we go. And then I'll just, if I go full screen, do you see my grid of tiles of Teams?
Yeah, we've got that now.
Yes. Okay. So I have my grid of tiles of Teams. I've clicked on Teams on the left. If this was a student, they'd see first period, second period, third period, or any basketball team that they are a Microsoft team member of. Which is really just great place, one place to go to collaborate across the whole school. I'm going to go down to period 1 geometry. And once I get in there, along the top, it says post files, class notebook. And again, the reason why it says 4 more is because I'm zoomed in. Remember, I like to do control plus, and there's assignments and grades. Let's just click on grades really quick, because I have a feeling that we're going to run out of time again to get into that. I want to make sure that
I don't think we're seeing what you're seeing.
You were not seeing what I'm seeing still? Dang it. I said
There it goes.
no. Do you see the grades tab that I'm looking at? I'm in full screen, so that's not working, right? How about now?
Yes, that's working.
Okay, so now I've learned today that Teams meeting does not share full screen. So that's interesting. All right, then I will start over. Thank you for that. I'm going to click on Teams. I'm going to click on period 1 geometry. At the top, it says 4 more. And again, it's doing that because I am zoomed in. I'm going to go ahead and click on grades just to make sure that you get a chance to look at this real quick. It just shows me a grid. And how lovely is this? It says viewed and returned. I just get everyone's status on the assignment. You'll notice that I can hover on that. I can click the 3 dots. I can open their work. I can return it. I can give them a score if I want to, if I just type in there. It's actually a really clean interface. I like that. So yeah, it's fairly obvious. It's a great book. So I'm going to click on assignments though, because that's what I wanted to show you today. I'm going to click on create, and that assignment and quiz. Quiz is a Microsoft form, and it makes it right into your team as an assignment, which is pretty nice. And from existing is reusing an assignment. And I don't know about you, but I definitely have a style. When I do my quizzes or my warm-ups, I pretty much have the same directions all the time. So what I like to do is I like to reuse an assignment I'd already assigned, or I can reuse an assignment from one of last year's teams or from a different class period, so I don't have to do everything from scratch. So that's a biggie. But I'm just going to click on regular assignment. I'm going to enter the title, build a bridge, and if you have categories, you can do that there. I'm going to zoom in just a little more. Hopefully that's of course, now I have less buttons that I can see when I do that. I just love how the instructions is rich text. You will design a bridge using geometry features. And I am going to use this highlight. I'm going to click on this and use this highlighter, highlight it green. I can hyperlink the text and go down a rabbit hole here, how much I love hyperlinking the text in Teams. I can add resources, so I can add directions, documents, I can add templates. I personally prefer to have students add their own resources than making templates. That doesn't mean I don't add templates, I absolutely do, but I try to more often have students do it from scratch as I normally do in the real world. I have to design and communicate my ideas from a blank document, so I don't stress myself out with that. I'm going to come down, I'm going to make this worth 10 points, and then you'll see that it says add rubric. Now, last week I covered how you can assign to more than one class at a time. So I don't want to do that because if I do that, I can't select single students. So I can do a subgroup of students. So the default assigns to all students. However, if you assign to multiple classes, you do lose the ability to assign to some students. I'm going to click on add rubric. And these are rubrics I've already created. So this makes it really nice because if it, I personally have like an assignment rubric. It's the same rubric every time, a conversation rubric, a group work rubric. I don't have to recreate the wheel or go look for it every time. So they are in there if you have them. You can upload a rubric and then you can create a new rubric. So I'm going to do new rubric. I'm going to title this bridge project. Now, if you want to, you can turn on where it stops being a rubric and turns it into a scoring guide. So you can do it with points. That's not what I'm going to cover today. You'll notice it defaults to excellent, good. I'm going to do this little arrow here, fair, and poor. So it's a 4-point rubric. If you are a fan of Thomas Guskey or Rick Wormelli, if you're not, I would encourage you to be a fan of Thomas Guskey and Rick Wormelli. They have some really great things on grading practices and standards-based grading and rubrics. And one of the things, I believe this is Thomas Guskey, is you should not use exceed standards because that's your full credit. So it's not exceed standards, that's the standard that you wanted. So it would be meet standards. So you can stick with the defaults or you can put in whatever you want. You can copy it, you can trash it, obviously. Now we're going to build a bridge, so it has to have at least 5 geometry elements. I use the tab button, go to the next box, has 5, tab, has 4, tab, has 3, tab. I'm really emphasizing this because I think a lot of people don't realize that you can tab, don't worry about the typos, has less than 3. If you need to add more categories, you of course can. Now I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to click this plus icon down at the bottom so I can add my next criteria and critical thinking. Displays at least DOK4, which at least is ridiculous because that's the highest. Displays at least DOK3 level of thinking. Tab. DOK2, tab, DOK1. I'm just going to make it real simple. Obviously, I could add more criteria and I could do a better job at this, but I'm going to go ahead and attach my rubric and I am going to assign this assignment and I'm going to release control over to Adam so that he can see what it looks like from the student side. Hey, thanks for joining, John.
So just to clarify, my sharing is working at the moment, yeah?
Yes, yes.
Brilliant, cool. You can all see yourself straight away. Again, going back to something that we've pointed out earlier and something that your students are going to want to be hooked into, my activity bell now is ringing 5 at the top, and one of the first things that's going to bring up for me is that an assignment has been mentioned in P1 geometry. I click on that and it's going to take me straight then to that post within this channel, within this team. And, you know, we're talking like 3 clicks there for your students to find their work. It's next to nothing. No more of this, well, I emailed it, yeah, or anything else like that. 3 clicks within Teams, and there you go, straight away, I'm within the assignment. Now, I'm not going to be a bad student and click hand in straight away and annoy my teacher just by clicking hand in with no work there.
I'd like to point out that Adam's screen is British.
Oh, yeah, yours says turn in, doesn't it?
No. Just in case anyone's confused why it says hand in.
Okay, but then there you go. There's my build a bridge assignment straight away that I can see. And I know that we touched on this last week, but if I then wanted to add some work here, I can then go into my own OneDrive, which will pick up my locations for, but I can also then choose a new file, which will allow Word document, PowerPoint presentation, or Excel spreadsheet. Now, I'm going to draw on this, Alice, because it's a great opportunity for you to show off your t-shirt. What if I'd actually built a bridge and done a flipgrid video about it? Well, what I'm then going to do is then I'm going to insert the link to my flipgrid video. If my teacher set it up right and she's linked it to my class team here, then obviously she'll have permission to view it. But if I've then done a video, when we're talking about those C's of education, well, if I want to be creative, I'd probably do mine out of Lego. Everyone that knows me will probably know that I'm going to build it out of Lego. I'm going to video it and I'm going to put it on Flipgrid, and I'll put the link straight then to my work there. So as then my teacher can then go straight into my assignment, and then she'd be able to watch my video and see my explanation like that. I'm really not a typer. I'm not one to express my thoughts in Word. And this then gives me a great opportunity for me as a student to think about how I'm going to produce my work. So that's how I do it there. I also like as well that I can look at the rubric. I think it's very, very important that our students have that head start and they know your expectations as a teacher and what you're looking for. So I'm then going to look at the rubric straight away and say, well, okay, what exactly is it that my teacher wants of me? How am I going to be at my best? And I'll start looking at the rubric here, because that's then going to give me a head start and a focus on how I'm going to go about creating this assignment.
If I could just add, I didn't do it, but in the instructions, what I should have done was say, please review the rubric before you get started. Yes, it is attached right there, and it looks like it's right in front of your face, but we all know, even ourselves, I know I've had my phone in my hand. I'm like, where's my phone? It's in your hand, Ms. Keeler. I'm like, oh, yeah. So I think it's just helpful that if you do add a rubric, to say, before you get started, make sure you review the rubric and to go over the criteria, because even if you say it verbally, not everyone heard you, for a variety of reasons. Okay, so you want to go ahead and hand in your project?
Oh, see, you're going to stitch me up here again, and that Grocott's still going to look like the worst student in the class. But yeah, I'll click hand in. There's my my little rocket emoji to say that, yep, I've done that. Again, it's something as well, just then from a student, and this was something that I was saying earlier about my students. Oh, no, I haven't quite finished it. I'll just click undo hand in. I know obviously for the purpose of this demonstration, but it's great to know that that's what you get as a student, and that's good to know that your students have got that feature. So I'll now stop sharing so we can come back to yours and see then my lack of or no work.
Okay,
Definitely.
so I'm in the assignment. I am going to the build a bridge, which I did not put a number on. So as soon as I notice that, I should edit the assignment and do 6. Whoops. You know, when people are watching you, like on the spot. So then I can see that Adam has turned this in. I'm going to click on his name. It's going to show me, he has no files, but we're going to pretend that he does. I've got some of his work. I'd be able to click on it. I can see that it is turned in. And then under rubric, I'm going to click on this, and it's going to expand it out right in the sidebar. So does he have at least 5 geometry elements? Well, he's got 4. So do you see I can just click on it really simply and easily? And here's a really lovely feature of rubrics in Microsoft Teams. You can add feedback per category. I'm just going to come right back up here, and I'm going to do the right arrow and go to the next category. It is display critical thinking. And again, I can just click on it, and I can enter some specific actionable feedback that goes along with this. So students aren't wondering, like, how did you get this score? No, this is how I was able to evaluate you. I saw your work. I can close that. And I should have been, did I not make this worth points? That sounds like something I would do. So I'm going to select his name and I'm going to go ahead and return it so he gets that rubric back. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put the PowerPoint back. And there is a little feature here in Teams meeting that it actually just starts back at slide 1. So we're going to power through all of the, oh, here it is. All the slides again, but there we go. So this will be a nice review.
Alice, just on the points thing, have you then ever edited an assignment to then put the points in later so as the students don't necessarily know what it's out of? Or
oh no, not on purpose.
No?
But what I do is I don't give them any points until they respond to my feedback.
Yeah.
So all right, now where were we here? Getting a nice little review as I go back through the slides. I am at rubrics. We did that. So now we're going to take a look at adding a tab into your teams, which I just think is just a really lovely way to quickly get everyone on the same page. I can post things to the post tab on the general channel or any of the channels, but of course, as people have comments and conversations, those get moved. So you can add a tab up at the top of any channel. You'll see a plus icon, and when you click on that plus icon, you get this add a tab. Now I use add a website probably the most often. If I have a PowerPoint or things that I'm doing with students that day, I like to add, I click on the PowerPoint and I add it as a tab so the resource is really fast and easy for students to find. But website's the one I use most often. I'm like, go to this, you can integrate Flipgrid right in there, or you can put the link to the Flipgrid or any of the resources you have, like a Padlet, and just sticks it as a tab right at the top. Adam would like to mention, just real quick, that there is a new feature called
Insights.
And it gives you some statistics, but I don't feel like that's a intro topic. So we'll get into that in a different webinar. So you can take a look for that if you're interested in insights. But what I'm really passionate about is collaborate, which of course makes sense when we're talking about Microsoft Teams, because Teams is all about interacting and being a team. So the way that you do that in Microsoft Teams is you go to the Files tab. Every channel has a Files tab. And when you add a new document or you upload a document, not in the class materials folder. So if you go in the class materials folder, it is view only. But if you don't do that, it is collaborative. So now we start thinking about how can I gather all the students to participate, share their ideas in one document rather than a bunch of individual documents that I have to open. So I create that PowerPoint right on the Files tab. And then if on the 3 dots, I'm on that Files tab and I have that PowerPoint where we're going to discuss whatever it is, I can copy the link and I can take that copy link and put it into an assignment if that's what I want to do. That this is part of an assignment that we're going to collaborate together. Then I copy that link into an assignment. Otherwise, I'm going to paste that into the post so that we can have some conversations and get to it quickly. And the other option you have, though, is just make that a tab. So I create this PowerPoint that I want everyone to add a PowerPoint slide, and they're going to put their work and their ideas, and we're going to have class discussion around all the students' ideas, and not just the ones brave enough to raise their hand. And I'm just going to make that a tab so everyone can find it really quick. By the way, you can right-click on the tab so you can remove the tab. But it's just a really great way for you to collaborate with your class. Have you ever done that, Adam?
Not yet, we haven't. But what I would say, if at this stage you're sat there now as a teacher and thinking about, well, actually, from a teacher's perspective, how could I collaborate? I'll challenge you on this. Why don't you add a file, add an Excel file, and why don't you all collaborate on your rubrics there? Again, I'll leave that one because I feel like that's a whole nother demonstration. But I just want to put that thought into people's head for then how to use this feature with their staff as well.
Let me say how you would share the rubrics. I was going to demonstrate it, and then I forgot I was going to do that. After you make a rubric and you put it into an assignment, you can actually download it as a CSV. It lets you do that from the assignment. Download the CSV. That is an Excel spreadsheet. It's not really, but it is. It's an Excel spreadsheet, but CSV is a type of spreadsheet. Go with that. And so if you just take that CSV file and add it to the Files tab of your team that you collaborate with your teachers. So being, an algebra teacher, you should have a team with all the algebra teachers so you guys can share resources. You just add those rubrics right onto the Files tab. They'll be able to make a copy of it and add it up into their team, no problem. Okay, so I think I was going to put another slide there and then apparently didn't happen. So we'll just see if there's any questions. Got my timing just about right. We have 4 minutes left, so if anybody has anything that we can answer, again, you can turn on your microphone or use the chat.
Always sounds like someone's going to come in. There has been, and I would encourage anyone who is on the call to make sure that you can access the chat. We can export the chat, can't we, Alice? Because there has been some superb questions in there tonight, some real great top tips being shared by the likes of Sarah and Rory. Jenny's in there as well, posting stuff as well for helping support. If there's only one other thing that I just want to share, Alice, and that's, you know, when we were talking earlier about the types of assignments that you can set. Again, thinking from teachers' perspectives and saving time and working smarter. Yeah, it's brilliant to upload an assignment that you've used previously. Make sure you amend it and you tailor it. Your students want to know that you're a part of their learning. You're not just regurgitating last year's material. So still always think about that. Yes, you can set a quiz as an assignment, but if you wanted to go in, if you're a user of Microsoft Forms already and you wanted to provide a bit more feedback other than just a score from a Forms quiz, copy the link and insert that link within your assignment. So it creates it as an assignment, because if you create a quiz as an assignment, you can't then put a rubric to it. If you want to add a rubric to give some feedback then to a quiz, just make sure that you copy the link from the forms when you share it and put that link in as some of your assignment material too. So.
Great tip. So go straight to forms.microsoft.com. When you go to forms.microsoft.com, it says make a form, make a quiz, click make a quiz. You're going to get a lot more features in there because it's a full featured rather than what is just in the team's assignments, because they're trying to make that quick and easy for you. So if you want full features, forms.microsoft.com, get the link to that quiz, put it into an assignment rather than quiz, and now you have all the assignment features fully right in Teams. So thanks for that. That is a super tip. And so Sarah here wants to know, can you share a commonly edited file through a class channel, or can you share an assignment so each student gets his own copy? Okay, so if you would like a file that multiple students edit the same one at the same time, that's where you're going to either use the Files tab, or you can actually add a file right into the Posts chat. You can add from OneDrive or upload a file and share with the team that way. And that's really good for a little more formative things where you just want to have a informal chat. But if I'm trying to do as an assignment, I tend to want to add it onto the Files tab. And so because I can link to them, then I can decide, is this just something we're doing together in class? You know, like whiteboards, I don't collect that. But if I do want to have it as a more formal assignment, I link to it in the assignment. If I want to make a copy per student, I don't put that on the Files tab. I go straight to an assignment, I create an assignment, I add the PowerPoint to the assignment, and then I'm going to click on those 3 dots to give me the option to switch it from students can't edit to where they get their own copy. All right, do you see any?
No, there's been some great stuff shared as well, again within the chat, and a lot of stuff there. Alice, I've got to ask, do you ever find yourself now not looking for 3 dots? It's I can't upload it. I can't go into any form of program without there being like 3 dots, and I'm like, ooh, what does that do? What's that going to help me do?
I feel like that's the 21st century skill, is like, you know, do I get excited about 3 dots and a tiny triangle? Do I feel curious about things? And if you just like, I wonder what this does, you're not going to survive in a digital world, because I think more often things get stuck under these 3 dots menus. Let's just even take, for example, when I have a Word document or a PowerPoint and I want to share it, how do I know who it's shared with? Well, when I go to the sharing, it gives me the option to get a sharing link, but who did I already share it with? Well, there's just these 3 dots at the top that allows me to manage access, and I can see who has access to the document, but I got to be willing to click on those dots. So this is your call to action, is to be a 3 dotser and click on all of them that you can find. It means more options menu.
Jenny's in the chat. She knows the power of the 3 dots. 3 dots and drop down arrows. Like it, when I'm teaching ICT, it's one of the things that I say to my students. We were doing sways from Microsoft Word, and I was like, just click the three dots, see what the three dots does all the time. Where's the three dots? Where's the drop down arrows? What else can you do? What else can you find out? But no, other than that, within the chat, I can't see that there's any further questions coming in.
Turn on their microphone and ask a question before we're done. All right, then. All right, well, you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you for joining. Pretty sure I have an end slide that says thank you. I'm at Alice Keeler, and he is at AD Grocott, and we look forward to interacting with you on Twitter. All right?
Yes, thank you all. Thank you for having me again, Alice.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
There he is. There he is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I've just come back from the cycle. That was why I didn't want to get on there. Still sweaty.